And I'm the relative new guy, but I do have a series of examiners, Ingrid Marsh, David Scheckman, Gail Matson on the line. They'll be helping us walk through our presentation today. As I mentioned, it is on our webpage at this point if you want to pull it up. This is an important process. I'm excited to be a part of it. I want to let you know how proud my team is to play a role in this process. We very much appreciate your partnership, and I'm looking forward to another collaborative year in a process that ultimately benefits consumers. Give you a couple of quick updates. The Plan Year 2021 bulletin has also been posted on our webpage. It was available earlier in the week. That is the long version, some of the issues we'll touch on today. So what we've done with the presentation this year is really scale it back from what we've done in prior years. So about 30 minutes long. We still have the Plan Year 2020 presentation available. It's up on YouTube. And it has a lot more detail about the nuts and bolts of the SURF and binder process. It's still very good information if you want to send people to view that as a reminder. This presentation is also being recorded and will be made available afterwards for folks who want to re-listen or who want to make it today. Questions-wise, I'd ask you to hold your questions to the end. Again, we're only about 30 minutes long here, and we're going to handle it very similar to a RegTap presentation, which we'll walk through it. And as RegTap would say, the department has several SMEs on the line to answer your questions. So when we get to the end, we can answer your questions. We've got some time. If we're unable to answer questions, then we'll take them back and get answers to everybody. With that said, here are the topics we're going to cover today. The team's going to walk through various slides, and we're going to kick it off today with David Scheckman.
Thank you, Jason. Hi, this is David Scheckman. I am an examiner at the New Hampshire Insurance Department in LAH. Some of you may recognize my name by the objection letters, I should say the approval letters that I've sent out to you in regards to your filings. I don't want to get anybody upset by saying objection letters. I've been asked to discuss about the timeline and key dates for the Plan Year 2021. So if we take a look at slide 3, you'll see on the screen we have two timelines. I know this is a little bit different than prior years. However, this year we decided to print both the CMS timeline, which is seen up at top, and we also have the New Hampshire Insurance Department timeline, which is down at the bottom. We will be focusing on the New Hampshire Insurance Department timeline in regards to this presentation. Very first time frame that we have here is in regards to the issuer bulletin, which was released earlier this week. So therefore, the next big date on the timeline is May 10th. On May 10th, this is when the initial submission of the individual and small group on/off exchange binders and form rate filings are due. When you do submit these binders on May 10th, carriers can submit placeholders in regards to the rate information that you are planning to submit. And these placeholders will be in place through June 1st. That is when the initial rates and documents are going to be due in regards, into the department. Next important date is June 17th, and that's when the initial QHP application submissions are going to take place. this is when the transfers will be going to CMS, and it's always an exciting time of the year. It's the initial submission, and that's when we will then be able to get all the necessary information from CMS in order to what needs to be cleaned up, improved, revised, whatever. Next date on our timeline is July 1st. July 1st is a busy day in regards to what needs to be submitted to the department. First thing is the initial rate revisions. That's when they will be due. And also in regards to the small group off exchange only binders and rate form filings are due that day as well. So again, July 1st, that is a very busy day here at the department. On July 15th, that's when the final rate revisions are due. Again, this will enable our actuary, David Sky, to review all the rate information, so we then can forward the rate information and transfer it over to CMS on July 22nd. After that date, that's when CMS will be doing their reviews of all the information. I'm sure there'll could be the possibility of some data corrections and going back and forth with CMS, going back and forth with the carriers. So between July 15th and then the ultimate date of August 19th, that is when the final transfers are going to be submitted to CMS. Normally, the department, we like to try to do the final transfers beforehand, a couple of days beforehand, because I'm sure on August 19th, every company, every state, they're going to be going back and forth with CMS on that date. So again, if we can try to get things wrapped up a couple of days early, that would be great. And hopefully we'll be able to get everything transferred successfully and receive the word from CMS as being happy. And we're going to be, hopefully that will happen. Now, if we go to the next slide just really talks about the key dates, which I've already discussed here, but we might as well just go over again. First, one thing that we did not touch on was in regards to the early bird QHP applications. If any carriers want to participate in the early bird process through CMS, those binders will be transferred on May 19th. Rule of thumb is if you'd like to participate in that, by all means, feel free to do so. But if you could submit the binders and the form rate filings before May 10th, give us a little bit of a chance to focus on those, and so we can transfer those on May 19th. That would be great. Another key date is May 10th, obviously, and that's in regards to the initial individual and small group on-off exchange binders and form rate filings. And again, carriers can use placeholders for the rates up through June 1st. Then next date we have here is July 1st. Again, that is when the initial rate revisions are due, as well as the small group off exchange only binders and form rate filings are also due that day. And then we have the final rate revisions due on July 15th. And that little friendly reminder down the lower right-hand corner is the final transfer to CMS on August 19th. So hopefully everything runs smoothly this year, as it did last year. Honestly, it did take place nice and smoothly, and we're looking forward to hopefully another smooth year in regards to the filings. I will now transfer this over to Ingrid Marsh, who will discuss state guidance. Ingrid?
Great, thanks a lot, David. I'm Ingrid Marsh. I am a compliance examiner here with the department. Many of you, I've worked with many of you. Next, we're going to talk about the state guidance with regard to the plan year 21 submissions. We do understand the complexity of, as many of you know from working with these in the past, they can be very complex. There's a lot of moving parts, if you will, with these. That said, the department is decided to dedicate a specific page for QHP certification submission information, and you will find that that web link at the bottom of the screen. This is accessible from our home page. If any of you are familiar with that, there's a menu on the left side of the page. You will want to select Life, Accident, and Health. And at the next screen, the very top bullet is the Plan Year 21 QHP link that will open up the page where all of our guidance is provided. In the first section, you'll see our most recently submitted or issued bulletin that came out last Friday, I believe, the Plan Year 21 Issuer Guidance Bulletin, along with several templates, such as the New Hampshire Formulary Template, the Formulary Change Justification Form, and the Attestation of Compliance with QHP Review Tools. The next section on that page includes the updated New Hampshire Network Adequacy Template that you'll be required to submit your network adequacy spreadsheet using, along with the New Hampshire's resource file that you can use to locate carriers in your service area for contracting purposes. The next section is the benchmark plan information, the MetLife dental information, along with CMS's link to benchmark plans nationwide. The last section includes the CMS notice of final notice of benefit payment parameters for Plan Year 21 and their draft 21 letter to issuers, which you're familiar with. The final item is the key dates calendar, which David Sheckman just reviewed with you. And we're very soon to be issuing the checklists for the individual, small group, and standalone dental products. One thing you'll want to pay particular attention to is the master checklists, as you'll want to be following these very closely in preparing your binder submissions and form filing submissions. Next, we'll move on to the federal guidance slide, you will see a link midway down for the CMS's QHP certification website. On that website, you will see a link to application materials, which the screen is shown on the right-hand side of your screen, and that includes most all the substantial information that you will need to create your binder. Those are the components of the binder that are required. It's pretty self-explanatory there. The ECP network adequacy template, business rules template, plan ID crosswalk, plan and benefits template, prescription drugs template, and so forth. The checklist for this material is found at the bottom of the page. And also, you'll want to be mindful of the SURF Industry User Manual, which is available in SURF through the Help button on the top right of the screen. There you will find information on submitting your filings and binders in SURF, and there is a particular link at the bottom of the manual for plan management that's very helpful in if you have problems with submitting the binder. Next slide, we will talk about the QHP weekly calls. In previous years, we've scheduled a standing weekly call with each issuer. The department has opted not to do that this year due to the fact that we feel that ongoing dialogue with the carrier during this busy time is more effective. That said, if you have any questions in general in nature with regards to the QHP process, they should be submitted to your assigned examiner via email. And if needed, we will schedule a call to discuss. All all email requests or inquiries will be responded to in writing. And that said, for those of you who have participated in the QHP process before, you will be assigned to the same examiner as you were in prior years, particularly in plan year 2020. The department will distribute significant updates that arise from your questions and general questions and responses in a FAQ format that will be available to all issuers. But keep in mind that any proprietary information or plan-specific rate product design information will be kept confidential. On my final note, I would say that if you do have any specific questions with regards to objection letters, those must be submitted in a note to reviewer in the SURF system, and we ask that you please do not send us emails or phone calls with regards to objections, but submit your inquiries through the SURF system. Next, I'll turn it back over to David to talk about network adequacy.
Thank you, Ingrid. Just want to just touch one thing with regards to this, the network adequacy slide. Very top, very beginning, it says, for plan year 2021, issuers will be required to file the templates listed here. Obviously, the three things that are listed, there's only one template there, which is the New Hampshire Insurance Department Network Adequacy template. The other two, the public FTP site and the NHID resource file, are just resource files in order to help you fill out the network adequacy template. So again, the only template that we're looking for is the New Hampshire Insurance Department Network Adequacy template. So some friendly reminders regarding the network adequacy submissions. One, you should review the guidelines detailed in the network adequacy template. Second, the provider information submitted must be representative of the signed contracts that are in place. Next, all data submitted must be accurate and current as of the date of the filing. If changes do occur after the submission, you must report to the department in writing immediately, as well as update all applicable state and federal templates via SURF. If changes occur after the approval or certification of your plans, issuers are subject to the INS 2700.11 reporting requirements. And for plan year 2021, carriers no longer need to submit the New Hampshire summary template, which is basically the hospital listing. However, network adequacy template must clearly identify the participating hospitals in your networks. And one other thing that did not make the slide here, and I just want to point out, is in regards to carriers who have multiple networks associated with their plans. We do not want to see multiple networks filled in on one line on the network adequacy template. It's very confusing. So we are requesting that at the bottom of the template, you have tabs, that you associate a tab with one of your networks. So if you have 5 networks, or I should say 3 networks or so, one tab should be assigned to each network separately. This will make our job a little bit easier. Will make it a little bit quicker for us to do the review. And again, it'll enable us to do that. It'll also enable us to, pardon, that was my office manager barking at me right now. But in regards to the template, again, we want to see separate tabs. This will enable us to review the review the networks. Will also allow us to keep track of the of your networks if there are any changes. So again, it just makes it a whole lot easier. And again, we ask that you do this. I will now pass this over to Jason, who will discuss about the rate filing procedure.
Thank you, David. Again, this is Jason Dexter. I wanted to touch base on the Section 1332 waiver that the state has filed. I think many of you probably participated in the hearings that took place last week and talked about this, so you're aware of this issue. This is relates to the individual major medical products only, so it's not a shop issue. The primary impact for this, the QHP process, is that we are going to need you to file 2 sets of rates in the system. We're only going to need 1 actuarial memorandum that speaks to both issues, but we do need the 2 sets of rates. We expect or hope to have a response from CMS in May, June. Regardless, we're still going to need both sets of rates. We'll need it for the 1332 filing. The recommendation is to act as if the waiver is going to go through. So the documents where they would normally go would be with a with waiver rates. And then the without waiver rates, you can just plug into supporting documentation or somewhere in the system where we have access to them. Thank you. And at this point, I'll transfer it to Gail Matson.
Hi, Gail. You just need to unmute yourself.
I tried that. It didn't do it until you did, apparently. Sorry. Hello. Thank you, Jason. This is Gail Matson. I'm a compliance examiner with the New Hampshire Insurance Department. I'll be taking you through the next few slides. As you can see, slide 10, the New Hampshire QHP tools attestation. Issuers must complete the attestation confirming that all CMS QHP tools have been run and any errors resolved prior to submission of the data templates. An example of the attestation is to the right of this slide. The attestation can be found on our website. Click on Life, Accident, and Health links, or on the left side of the page. The first bullet is information for health insurance companies on 2021 QHP. The attestation form is on the 5th or last bullet under 2021 plan year QHPs. If an unmet status is received, you must add an additional column on the right of the Excel Tools Result tab to explain how compliance is met despite the unmet result. Both the attestation and the Excel spreadsheet must be uploaded to the Supporting Documents tab of the binder in SURF. One staff member of the department will run the tools for 2021. In order to avoid the back and forth objections, it is crucial that carriers complete the templates accurately. Next slide, please. The carrier presentation, matching policy forms and plan and benefit templates. This slide is self-explanatory, but I will go through it a bit. It is imperative that the data on the templates be accurate and match the policy forms. Benefit limits, exclusions, and explanations must be on the plan and benefits template. Updates to plan forms require updates to the plan and benefit templates, and vice versa. Next slide, please. Slide 12 is cost sharing. This slide shows last year's maximum annual limits and the proposed limits for 2021. We are awaiting finalization of the 2021 limits. The information will be updated once received. As you can see, the limits increase each year. Next slide, please. Prescription drugs. All health plans are required to have a process for enrollees to request consideration of clinically appropriate drugs not otherwise covered by a health plan. To the left of the slide, you will see the 3 types of review for the process and timelines internal, external, and expedited. Once an exception request is granted, the accepted drug is treated as an EHB, including the cost sharing towards the annual limit. All carriers must use the New Hampshire Standard Prior Authorization Prescription Form. The link to access this form is found at the bottom of the slide. Now I'll turn it over to Ingrid for the next portion.
Billing protection has to do with coverage for emergency services. The bulletin number is NH19016AB. It amends Senate Bill 11, which revises RSA 417F:4, which became effective on July 1 of 2019. This law provides ER boarding for involuntary admission to the emergency room. This statute provides issuers must be contracted with acute care hospitals to pay a per diem day rate required to board and care for patients, and includes mental health workers who are assisting insureds during wait for admission to the hospital. The services shall not require pre-authorization. More guidance about this bulletin and the provisions are found on page 10 and 11 of our Plan Year 21 bulletin under the Addiction Equity Act. The second bulletin pertains to enforcement of New Hampshire balanced billing and network adequacy laws. The bulletin number is NH19015AB. It was issued in July of 2019, and it implements House Bill 1809, which provides guidance for compliance with INS 270105C, which was effective August of 2018. It requires reasonable access to health services by providers that are integral to care in a hospital or similar setting when in-network services are not accessible. The carrier must assure that no out-of-network cost sharing is imposed. More guidance on this bulletin is found in our Plan Year 21 issuer bulletin on page 10 and 11 under mental health parity and addiction equity. Next slide, please. Next, we'll talk about federal policy proposals. Some proposals that issuers should be aware of that could impact your plan designs and enrollees during the Plan Year 21 include the following three items. The first one is the drug manufacturer coupons. Under the 2021 rule, issuers would no longer be required to, but may count drug manufacturer coupons towards a consumer's out-of-pocket maximum. This flexibility applies whether the drug is a brand name drug or a generic drug. Second on the list is value-based insurance proposals. As proposed in the Plan Year 21 guidance from CMS, QHPs could implement some or all of the value-based insurance design proposals, but the implementation would not result in any preference or distinction on healthcare.gov. Lastly, auto-enrollment. CMS indicates in its draft guidance that enrollees could be automatically re-enrolled without an APTC unless they proactively renew or select new coverage. The goal here would be to ensure that individuals obtain an updated eligibility determination in order to have APTCs that will cover the full cost of coverage. Next slide. Transition plans. On January 31st, CMS issued guidance providing that it will not take enforcement action against certain non-grandfathered coverage in the individual and small group insurance markets that is out of compliance with certain specified market reforms. The CMS guidance allows the renewal of transition coverage through October 1 of 2021, but also stipulates that no policy shall extend past December 31st of 2021. New Hampshire has a separate distinction. As in previous years, the department has adopted the CMS traditional guidance, but will allow the renewal of transition coverage but because of the 12-month rate guarantee period under RSA 420G4 1A, New Hampshire will not allow renewals for less than a 12-month period. For more guidance on this, you'll want to take a look at our bulletin found on our web page under the legal tab, INS 18018AB. And with that, I will turn it over to Jason to discuss the New Hampshire legislative process.
Thank you, Ingrid. This is Jason again. The next two slides are really just something that I've noticed. The first one is something I noticed at the last year's process, and I just wanted to acknowledge for folks. One is that the New Hampshire legislative process doesn't necessarily tie out to this QHP process. And we end up towards the end of the year, the session, when we have them, running around to try to make last minute changes. And I just wanted to thank you for helping us during those times. We're kind of in this one together. We can't control the legislature, and this year it's a really unique situation. But this is something that's going to occur every year, so I just wanted to acknowledge that. Finally, we recognize that there's a lot going on right now, and we wanted to try to go through and see if there were some items that we could eliminate that weren't required by federal or state law, to acknowledge that I think everybody's a little busier than usual right now. The first thing that we took out is last year we required issuers to submit their consumer notices if there's a mid-year formulary change to us through SURF. Those were going to Gail Matson. That's something that this year we're not going to require. There's still obligations under the law related to formulary changes that are detailed in the bulletin, but as far as shipping those consumer notices to us as an information only, you don't need to do that. The CMS requires for individual coverage the plan crosswalk. CMS does not require it for the shop plans. We've eliminated, in the past, we required this. This year, we've eliminated that requirement. And then David Scheckman recognized this earlier, that this separate New Hampshire summary template for acute care hospitals, we're not going to require. It is very important that your network adequacy templates clearly identify your participating hospitals. This is a big piece of information that is important to consumers. It's important to the New Hampshire Insurance Department because we get a lot of calls from consumers. And we also hear from brokers that they use that information when they're helping sell these products. So it's important that we have that information, but we wanted to eliminate that particular requirement. Finally, I've got a list of contacts here. Lots of names you recognize on the line today to help us with the Q&A session if necessary is Margot and Lisa from PCG. And with that, our presentation is complete. We came in pretty much exactly at 30 minutes. So thank you for participating. We can open it up now for questions, and you can submit those, and Ariane will read them off. Thank you.
Hi, Jason. We already have a few that have come in during the presentation, so I can start to read those off. And anyone else with additional questions can enter them or raise their hand, and I can unmute you so that you can ask the question. So I'll start with the first one from Jacqueline McConnell. Page 8 states issuers will be required to file the templates listed and points to FTP site a network adequacy template and NHID resource file. It is only the network adequacy template that needs to be completed, correct?
That is correct, Erin. This is David. Again, the other two things that were listed, the FTP site and the resource file, those are just files to help you complete the template.
Okay. The next question is, so on the network adequacy template, even if the network is the same for two different plans, do a separate tab.
That is,
Sorry, David, it cut you off. Did you say that's correct?
I'm sorry. Yes, that is correct. We want to have the separate networks on separate tabs.
Okay. And could you please confirm if we do not have to submit the NHID hospital template as we have in the past?
Again, this is David. Again, yes, you do not have to submit the hospital template.
Okay. See, so far that's all the questions we have. So we can wait a couple more minutes and see if anyone else has questions.
Yeah, Ariane, we still have no more questions?
Still have no more questions, so if you want to close it up. Oh, sorry, just one more. Two more. Just a question regarding the due date, which is Sunday. Can we submit on the next business day, which is Monday the 11th?
Which due date are we talking about there?
I'm assuming something that's due on the 10th.
Yeah, it sounds like it's the initial filings for the individual small group on auth exchange.
She says forms and rates.
Right. It's the binders and the form and rates for the individual and small group on auth exchange on May 10th. Just like last year, we had filing submission due on, I remember it was Mother's Day on Sunday. Again, we did that because in the past carriers had question about, we set it for a Friday. Everybody said, oh, can you give us the weekend? So again, we did that last year. It was Sunday. And from what I gather, it's again the same thing this year, May 10th, which is a Sunday. That's when the submissions can be due.
Okay. It looks like we have multiple questions on that. So it looks like that should be answered for Lena's question as well. Another question, can you repeat the 2021 small group form rate filing deadline?
The small group auth exchange?
They do not specify.
Okay. Well, again, the small group auth exchange only, binders and form filings, that is July 1st. The individual, I should say, small group on auth exchange that CMS will be posting, that is due on May 10th.
And just a reminder for folks that this presentation is posted on our website. So after this, you can visit our website to check anything that you may have missed or have questions about. Okay, any more questions? I'm not seeing any, Jason.
Okay, well, you know where to find us. I think my name, email, and phone number are in the bulletin at least 3 times. And you all have worked with your assigned forms examiners before. So again, thank you for joining us today and look forward to working with you this year.
Okay, thanks everyone.